Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian and Glory video. In today's episode, we are continuing to review the 10th edition Guard datasheets. This time, having a look at everyone's favourite army of Rambo, the Catachan Jungle Fighters. With their crazy over-the-top muscles, exaggerated tongue-in-cheek macho man attitude, and an overall aesthetic ripped straight from a 90s B-rated action flick, it's not hard to understand why so many people in the Guard community love the Catachan Jungle Fighters. And despite the fact that their kit is ancient, Games Workshop continues to support the Jungle Fighters, not only with cool characters such as Strachan and Harker and Sergeant Ripper, but also with new rules and data sheets. And that's exactly what we are going to be reviewing today. So without further ado, let's pull out our Catachan fangs, tear out the throat of a land shark with our teeth, and charge right into today's episode. As is tradition, we shall begin the video with a general overview of what the hell the Catachan Jungle Fighters are. This is for people who are new to the Guard, or maybe even to 40k in general, if you've been tempted in with the new 10th edition. The Jungle Fighters are one of the regiments of renown in the Imperial Guard, a famous fighting force that even the newest conscript, wet behind the ears, has heard of. They hail from the Death World of Catachan. Now, Death Worlds are those planets which are almost entirely uncolonizable by humanity because everything on them is trying to kill you. On a Death World, humanity is not at the top of the food chain. Every single plant, animal and mushroom is going to try and eat you, and Catachan is the deadliest of all Death Worlds. And amazingly, not only do the inhabitants of Catachan survive, but they thrive, and they have but one export to give to the Imperium: their fighting men. Simply by surviving childhood on Catachan and growing up to be old enough to serve in the Imperial Guard, the men and women of this planet are some of the finest soldiers in the Imperium. Their discipline and martial prowess rivals that even of the vaunted Cadian shock troopers, and their grim determination and natural endurance can even put them toe-to-toe with the Death Corps of Krieg. Well, at least that's how it goes in the lore. On the tabletop, the Catachans have had somewhat of a checkered history. In 3rd edition, they actually had their own codex with loads of flavorful and powerful rules. But through 4th to 7th edition, they essentially were just reskinned guardsmen. 8th edition did see them regain a bit of their identity with a unique regimental doctrine, but 9th edition unfortunately saw them going downhill again with a very lackluster datasheet. To be honest, it's kind of felt like over their history, Games Workshop hasn't really known what to do with the Catachan Jungle Fighters, struggling to make them fit in with the grimdark aesthetic and make them out to be badasses without them overshadowing the Cadians. But all of that's now changed, because in 10th edition, the Catachans are back with a vengeance. And I'm going to make a classic Mordian Glory over-the-top, bold statement. I now think the Catachan Jungle Fighters have a better datasheet than that of the Cadian shock troopers, and they may just become the go-to infantry for a lot of Guard commanders. Now, I imagine all of the Catachan players listening to this just broke out in their biggest Dr. Livesey or Giga Chad smile whilst posing in a perfect Mr. Olympia position and smashing their keyboards with their Tren-infused fingers going, "Get some, devil dogs, get some!" But for everyone else who is raising a very skeptical eyebrow, let me back up that claim by taking you through this datasheet. Now, to start off, You might think that I've gone a bit insane because the standard profile of the Catachan jungle fighters is exactly the same as the infantry squad, the Cadians, and the Krieg. You've got that movement of 6, you've got toughness 3, a save 5+, 1 wound, leadership 7, and an objective control of 2. So far, so light infantry and guardsmen equivalent, right? Now, let me be clear, just because something is standard issue, it doesn't mean that it's bad. In fact, by having a very basic profile, it means that the Catachans' points costs are not going to be inflated. They're not suddenly going to be running around at 20 points a man because they're toughness 4 with 3 wounds each. Instead, by having a rather underwhelming basic profile, they will have a much more affordable points cost. This will become important and relevant later on in the video, but just put a pin in that, just affordable, all right? And when it comes to their weapon loadouts, you might also be similarly unimpressed because they don't get plasma, melter, snipers, or even the newfangled grenade launcher that everyone's losing their minds over. No, your Catachans just get to spam lasguns and flamers. However, looking at Catachans in this way is a bit disingenuous, a bit dishonest, because this is 10th edition. You can plug those gaps in your Catachan datasheet if you want to by adding a platoon command squad to a unit of Catachans. Platoon command squads can take plasma, melter, all the different special and heavy weapons that you want. This means that your Catachans can kind of cover their bases. They can have all the flamers that they want, that makes them great at engaging light infantry, but if they come across a tougher target, well, a las cannon, a melter gun, and a plasma gun in the command squad that's part of the big blob will certainly help them at least threaten that target. Or you could go the other way and double down on the anti-infantry aspect. If you know that you're going to have lots of Leman Russets and Bathalists and maybe even a Shadow Sword in your army, and you've got anti-tank covered, you've got anti-tank coming out of the wazoo, then there's no point adding an extra melter or plasma into your army. Instead, give that command squad a flamer and a heavy flamer and really start burning everything down. In fact, this leads me on to one of the main points I want to make in the Catachan's favor, which is I wouldn't even worry about the firepower they can bring at all. Give them flamers, give them no flamers, doesn't matter. In fact, don't get bamboozled by all the special weapons your Cadians can bring, because this is 10th edition, it's not 9th edition. And in 10th, we are going to be entering an age more than likely of mechanized warfare. And most vehicles in the game are going to be toughness 9 or even toughness 10 and above. It doesn't matter if you've got those melter guns. They're not really that good at killing anti-tank anymore. It doesn't matter if you've got plasma guns. They're only strength 8. They're going to be wounding vehicles on 5s at best. Rather, I would remind my fellow guard commanders that the damage output of your infantry is incidental. It's supplementary. If they don't kill anything, it doesn't matter. That's what your big guns are for. Rather, your infantry is there to die for the Emperor. They should be pushing forward into no man's land, onto objectives, securing ground and scoring you points. And when you get rid of all the frills of the special weapons, you realize that your Catachans are as good as any other regiment for taking ground. Actually, they're better, because the strength of the Catachans does not lie in their weapons. It lies in their abilities. And there's one little ability that's on this datasheet. It's a nondescript one. It's unassuming. It's not pushing itself in your face. It's literally a core ability. And that is the fact that Catachans can scout 6 inches. This means they have a pre-game move. And this move opens up a whole host of tactical options. My toolbox is filled to the brim with Catachan tactics. Firstly, if you go second and you're facing off against a unit that can do early deep strike or early charges, and you just need to keep them at bay and just push them back as much as you can, just throw up a screen of Catachans. Just throw up 20 or 40 Catachans out an extended line. Just push them 6 inches forward. It gives you a buffer. It means that if they wipe out your Catachans, they can't consolidate into the next unit that's behind. And you don't really mind if that happens because you've not lost any of your precious special weapons. Catachans just there with, oh, I've lost a bunch of flavors. Oh, okay. Doesn't really matter because you weren't relying on that firepower anyway. You see? Cogs starting to turn, things starting to come together. But if you do go first, then it means that you can really start getting across this board. How many times have you heard me say in my videos, games of 40k are won and lost in the movement phase? The fact that you can just motor across the board, pre-game move 6 inches, then move another 6 inches forward. Hell, you might even want to advance, or you could move. Your Catachans could be creating a movement blocking screen in the opponent's face very early on, or they could be taking those mid-board objectives and locking them down right from the beginning. And when I say locking them down, I mean locking them down, because I did a video recently on how the Deathcore of Krieg are almost unkillable and they're really, really durable. What's insane is Catachans are just as durable. Deathcore and Catachans have exactly the same stat line. The only difference is the Deathcore can bring some of their guys back with their medics. Okay, that's fine, but those guys still need to die. When we're looking at pure durability, everything I said about the Krieg applies to the Catachans. You can give them take cover. In fact, they're more likely to jump into that cover, especially if you go first with what amounts to essentially a 12-inch move and a d6 if you want to advance. And you can also give them take cover. They're going to have those platoon command squads with them. Brilliant. And they can still have that 6-up feel no pain for the command squad. And there's nothing saying you can't put a Primaris Psyker with them and get that psychic barrier off. Like with the Krieg, the end result is your Catachans are going to have a 3+ armor save, a 4+ invulnerable save, and a 6+ feel no pain. Multiple layers of durability, which at every step are going to reduce your opponent's effectiveness. So this makes your objectives pretty bloody secure. But let me go back to that movement blocking stuff I mentioned before. Move blocking is a very powerful thing to have at your disposal. 40k. It means that you can literally trap your opponent in their deployment zone whilst you're running around doing whatever the hell you want. Now, Catachans can do this in a number of ways. Firstly, at a very basic level, you could take 10 to 20 Catachans and just give them the move order. That means they can scout move 6 inches, then they can move another 6 inches plus 3 from the order. So now we're looking at a 15-inch move. And then we can also use our advance roll to get them another 3 to 4 inches. So overall, your Catachans can move up to 18 to 19 inches turn 1. And that covers most of no man's land and more than likely is going to block your opponent in. And with 2 or 3 units of Catachans doing this, as an affordable price point, it's really cheap to just throw some meat up there turn 1 and you don't care for all dies, right? But wait, what if we combine the durability we mentioned earlier with this? Suddenly you could have 3 squads of Catachans with their command squads, with the Primaris Psykers, that's going to be 78 infantry in total, mega buffed up, just blocking your opponent in. That's going to take more than 1 turn for them to chew through. And if you really want to keep them pinned down, chuck in some Scout Sentinels. 3 squads of 3 Scout Sentinels with their improved durability, they've got that better save now, with their Scout move, means you can create a really effective cordon sanitaire around your opponent that might take him 2 or 3 turns just to break out. Now, sure, there are problems with this. Your opponent could have fly and it might not always work. It's more of a tool or a tactic to have in the back of your mind when you come across a slow moving non-fly opponent, but it's definitely something you can do. And the best part is that whilst this is a significant investment, by no means is it the majority of your list. You're still going to have more than enough points left over to get your Deathcore of Krieg in there if you want any more infantry, and your Lehman Russets and your Basilisk and everything else that you might want. So your opponent is corralled into their deployment zone whilst you're bombarding them and you're holding the objectives and you have huge battlefield control. But wait, there's more, because not only can they do all this objective control and movement blocking shenanigans, they've also got another trick up their sleeves. Ironic, because they all wear combat vests with no sleeves, but anyway, bear with me, it's just an analogy. They're also fantastic bully and half-decent close combat infantry. This is thanks to their other ability, Jungle Fighters. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if it charged or was charged, you improve the strength and AP of that attack by 1. That means that your Catachans will be hitting at strength 4 with AP 1. Now, of course, each guy's only got 1 attack, but in a 20-man blob, that's actually 20 attacks. Combine that with fixed bayonets, and your infantry are now hitting on 3s. Of course, this does not mean your Catachan jungle fights can start going toe-to-toe with World Eater Berserkers. Rather, it means you can win those peer-to-peer fights, light infantry on light infantry. Those enemy termagants in front of you can not only be hosed down with flamers, given a volley from lasguns, but then you can get in amongst them and finish them off, opening up more potential damage output in turn. Naturally, when you do come across those proper combat units, your Catachans will revert to their cannon fodder role, just blocking them and slowing them down, and you'll need to bring in the big guns to blow them away, or your own dedicated combat units such as Rough Riders and Ogrins. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're running short on points, you've got all the guns that you want, but you just want a smidge of combat ability, something that you can just have in your back pocket, rather than going for more guns with your Cadians, you might be better off going with the Catachans, because it will allow you, even just partially, to plug a gap in your list. I know that right now there's a bunch of Cadian fanboys crying tears out of their purple eyes, desperately putting down in the comment section, but what about the shock troops' ability to have sticky objectives? Surely that makes them more viable than Catachans. On paper, sticky objectives look good. In reality, it's rarely going to come up. This is the Guard. We're a horde army. Whether that's fleets of tanks or it's waves of infantry, we got lots of stuff. And if you're having to rely upon sticky objectives to hold your backfield objectives, something's probably gone a bit squiffy. As Guard, one of our greatest strengths is our combat width, and once territory falls under our control, often it remains there because we just keep pushing more and stuff into it, and we're across the line. Where we tend to lose the games is where not. And on top of all this, we've seen missions from Games Workshop which have sticky objectives built into them that every unit benefits from. So the moment you take your Cadians into that game, the one thing that they're really doing better than everyone else becomes invalidated, making that ability, unfortunately, situational. Therefore, I cannot help but draw the conclusion that the Catachans have a profile that is just as good as anyone else's, that their weapon options are just as valid as everyone else's in the grander scheme of things, and that their scout ability is a fantastic tool to have in the toolbox, which is going to save your ass in pretty much every tournament you go to. And they also can cover a slight weakness of the Guard, which is our close combat ability. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me, or do you think that Cadians are still the premier infantry choice for the Guard? Whichever side of the fence you come down on, if you've enjoyed today's video, please make sure to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And if you found this whole thing particularly fun or informative, please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only are you helping us create more videos here on the Mordian Glory channel, but you will also unlock a whole bunch of perks for yourself, including access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with over 1,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord, and we've got channels for discussing army list tactics, new 10th edition stuff, and of course, it's got a pretty spicy meme section as well. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to all of our latest members. So thank you to Joe M, MP Bros 20, Robbie Mintz, Hand of Banath, Sam Richardson, Matthew Manty, Dr. Gun Go Pew Pew, Christopher Jackson, Noswell X, GoEA, Ely, Man, Millen Cora, James Hewitt, C. Wolanski, and John. I also want to shout out the latest Patreons as well, so a big thank you to Jeffrey Hill, Digit, Heartsick Ruben, DA Ware 7, Ewan Furs, Jesse Tucker, Jonathan Vega, Franz Calamari, Michael Straub, Legendary Hot Dog, Capusa, and Strigoi Gold Queen. And last but certainly not least, I want to take the time to say a special thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Alan Blunt III, Bon Vert, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Thank you guys. Your incredible and generous support makes a huge difference, and it's a big part of how I'm able to do more during the time. Hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.